Good evening. I'd like to call the Sutton School Committee to order. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, this meeting of the school committee is in a hybrid format with both in-person and Zoom components. To join the meeting, visit www.zoom.us/join and enter meeting ID 862-7461-9489, passcode 277090. This meeting will be broadcast and recorded on local public access station Verizon 31 and Charter Spectrum 191 and live streamed on the town's YouTube channel when available. Sutton School Committee has been called to order. I'd like to ask each member to state their name and whether they're attending in person or remotely.
Peter Tufts in person.
Nate Jerome in person.
Bruce Edwards in person.
Paul Brennan in person.
Ben Gibbons in person.
Perfect, thank you. Please rise to the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First order is the citizens forum. Would ask anybody who speaks to be mindful and be very cautious on mentioning names. And that those who are in attendance be mindful and respectful of the opinions of others which may not agree with you. The floor is open. Welcome.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jocelyn Young. I'm representing Sutton CPAC tonight. CPAC, for those of you who aren't familiar, is the Special Education Parent Advisory Council. Previously, we have not had a representative at the school committee meetings. I emailed Bruce a link to the Massachusetts regulations that I'm sure you can share with you, and I won't bore you with that at this time, but we are looking to develop a relationship. And since we are growing, we'd like to have a place here at school committee and increase our involvement within the school district. Today, it seems best to just update you on some of the things that we've been doing the past few months. We've been increasing our membership. This month, we will be voting and creating a website to provide resources and a place for communication and transparency for parents, as that has been identified as one of the top concerns of parents interacting with the school. We have seven. Do you mind if I lower my mask a little bit?
Not at all.
Okay, thank you. We have several events planned for this year. The first on December 6th is a parent and students' rights event with attorney Amy Dodonna. In the winter, we are partnering with Amen Clinic for an educational event regarding high functioning autism and ADHD. And that was at the recommendation of Andrea, our special education director. We also partnered with a couple teachers for a cultural council grant for Walking Labyrinths. And if that's approved, we will be doing a event with the community this spring for that. I expect that we will also have more events for parents, possibly teachers, and how about in any way we can. One of the reasons that I think that we are growing is that the mental health concern in our schools has become more prevalent than ever. We support, which I think the special education department will talk to you about, the hiring of a clinical coordinator for the district to address this concern. Our IEPs and special education needs are higher than ever. Our class sizes, the behavioral, the social emotional needs of the children are striking this year. And I think teachers are doing their best, administrators are doing their best, and parents and children are doing their best. And we need to have some additional support. We've discussed the need for additional IAs or revamping of the IA system, specifically in the elementary school with both the principal and special education department. And they've been wonderful with working together and with us on communicating regarding some of the parent concerns on the lack of relationship building. And I look forward to continuing that conversation. And I know that we're hiring as a district, the royal we, we're hiring IAs. So we will also be supporting them and reaching out and finding the best candidates that we can, and supporting them in any other way. From the parents' point of view that I'm representing, the top two concerns are improving communication and transparency. I think that a lot of parents are feeling they don't know why changes are being made, or they don't understand why things are happening. And that creates a lot of frustration or anger that sometimes is vented on social media or other things that is not really the best problem-solving arena. So CPAC really wants to become the facilitator of communication between the schools and the parents and help out both sides. My background is both in clinical mental health. I'm also an arts educator. You know me through Green Bean. So I feel like as an officer of CPAC, I can understand both sides and see both sides in a very challenging year. And that's my update.
Terrific.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in. Do we have any other citizens forum? Do we have any online? Not that I'm seeing. Okay. We'll move to the consent agenda. These are the minutes from October 4th, 2021. The bill schedules from October 7th, 2021, October 14th, 2021, and October 21st, 2021. I have a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Okay. Any discussion? Pete,
Nope, no, thank you.
Paul,
Nothing.
Ben?
No.
Nate?
Not for me.
Okay, there's been a motion to approve. All those in favor?
Jerome, I.
Edwards, aye.
Brennan,
Gibbons, aye.
Passes 5-0. The next item on the agenda is the Sutton, the student update from the elementary school. We have 3 students from the elementary school to join us tonight.
Hello,
Okay,
hello. I am Charlotte Sweater, and I'm in 3rd grade. In 3rd grade,
could you lower your mask so we could hear you a little better? Thank you.
in 3rd grade, we have the chance to make new friends. And this year is a special year because this is the first year we get to use the blue playground. We also learn a lot of new things in ELA and math. And 3rd grade gets to eat outside and play outside. We get to use jump ropes, catch, and hula hoops. And this year, 3rd grade gets to dress up for Halloween. And we have a big party. It is so fun to be in school. I know it's been rough the past few years with COVID, but you can barely notice it because 3rd grade is so fun. And that is the amazing 3rd grade. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I am Hunter Carrier. I am representing 5th grade at this committee meeting, and I will be talking about how it is going and what we are doing for math and other subjects of matter. First, I'm going to be talking about math. We're starting on long multiplication and division, including double digits, triple digits, and quadruple digits. We have been working on order of operations, which is basically, well, you should probably know, but I'm going to explain it to you anyway. I remember it by PEMDAS, which is basically parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. I will now be moving on to ELA, English Language Arts. So for reading, the reading part of ELA, we have been reading books like Wonder, Because of Mr. Interrupt, and Among the Hidden. For writing, we have been doing a small activity called 10-minute write, where you were assigned a topic and you have 10 minutes to write about that topic. It is extremely simple and extremely easy for the kids to understand. For the final part of ELA, we are doing graphic language, I'm pretty sure they're calling it. It's basically writing about parts of, like, okay, for an example, right now my class is doing something called memoir writing. We are writing about a memory that we learned a lesson from in the past, and it is a form of formal writing, and it is helping us with our grammar and our handwriting. For the final, forgot the word, subject, I will be talking about science. We have been doing a lot of materials on the mystery science website, and we have been talking about the moon phases, the constellations, the orbit of the planets, and the rotation of Earth. We have been doing a lot of science on education.com, which is another website we use, and that is all.
Terrific. Don't go anywhere, Hunter. Where's our other guest? She's coming. Okay. Thank you for coming in. You guys are impressive. That's wonderful to be able to come in and speak to a bunch of adults that you don't know. You guys did a great job. And Hunter, you did this without notes. Look at me. I gotta take notes. This is when I can do this. That's impressive. Can we ask you some questions?
Of course.
Sure. Pete?
I don't have any questions, but that is the most thorough explanation of what you're actually learning of all the kids that have ever come in here. That was great, Hunter. One quick one. What is so great about the blue playground?
It's very different from the red playground. There are zip lines and there's a big slide. There are monkey bars. And there's this thing, I don't know what it's called, that you swing. And these handles, it's very fun. It's
All
very
right.
different from it.
That explains it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's wonderful. Least favorite and most favorite thing about school every day.
My least favorite thing. Oh, I don't even know if I have one. My most favorite thing I know is probably my classroom and Miss Conway's class. We do a thing called Flashlight Friday, where every Friday we have a book and we have these many finger flashlights, and it's like a calm thing to do at the end of the day. And we read our books and the lights are off when we use our finger flashlight. That's probably my most favorite thing. I'm still thinking about my least favorite.
Maybe there isn't one. How about, do you talk about sixth grade and going into the next grade? Can you think of anything that you could be doing this year that would make it easier or more fun to go to sixth grade?
Honestly, no. We haven't talked about transitioning over at all. The only real close thing that I've gotten to coming close to even like learning anything about transitioning over is the Halloween party, where we basically walked through a bunch with the whole entire rest of the grade, and we passed by the sixth graders. That's the closest thing I can think of.
I think they have more parties in sixth grade. Thanks.
And
No, I've got nothing, but thank you both. It's always exciting to hear from you, and I too am very impressed. I can't do without notes either. So.
So this is the tough thing about when you get towards last in the questions is everybody steals all the good questions. And I would just add by saying, I was very impressed with how both of you did.
Thank
What,
you.
what a great job. This is not an easy thing to get up there and be prepared, present stuff, and then have questions asked, but you both did fantastic. So we really appreciate you coming. And if you ever think of anything, please feel free to come again. We're always happy to hear from you.
Thank you.
And I know if I have math problems, I might come to you, Hunter. and ask questions.
do you think if we asked Mrs. Harrison real nice, you guys would come back and talk to us in the spring?
Of course.
Sure.
Terrific. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
The next group of students coming in may not get the same round of applause. The bar's been set awful high, but we've got some high school students to come and speak with us. No pressure.
Everybody, thanks for
Hello.
having us. It's a tough act to follow. So Riley and I are both seniors, and we've been really busy recently as a lot of the college applications are actually due tonight. So we've been hustling to get those done. Yeah, right. And the English department has been really helpful, especially in helping edit and revise our college essays. That's been a huge help for us. And they've always been open to reading it again and reading it a fourth time. And they've been very helpful. And the guidance department is always ready to make meetings whenever we ask them. They really try to fit us in whenever they can.
Yeah, I just like to add on to the English department point. I'm kind of a perfectionist, and I've read over my essay like probably more than I should have. And I went to Mr. Marcucci. He taught me AP Lang last year. It was all about like essay writing. And I went to him probably 7 times to ask him to edit my essay with me. And every time he did, sat down with me, we went through it, and it's all finished now, and I'm happy with it. So
Athletics are kind of wrapping up now. A lot of our teams are heading into state playoffs, and it's really exciting. The girls field hockey and soccer just won the Central Mass Championship, that's awesome. They're really proud of themselves. And the boys soccer team, the girls volleyball team, the girls field hockey team, and the girls soccer team are all eligible for the state tournament, and that'll start this week actually. So we're all looking forward to that.
yeah, we find out the playoff seedings. Volleyball is tonight at some point, and I think everything else is tomorrow afternoon. So that should be good to hear where we stand for that.
One thing about athletics though, we've been unable to get a lot of field time recently. No one can really change this, but it's been due to weather. Both Memorial Field and the Sutton fields have been, we can't play on them because they're just too messy. And kids have actually gotten hurt by playing on them. We've been hoping to get on turf fields, but currently we're unable to drive each other to out of town practice areas. And if that change is possible, we would love for that to be a possibility, because playing on turf going into the state tournament would be great, because every single state game is on turf, and it's a huge difference. I'm sure those of you that have student athletes at home can confirm that.
We just recently, last week, kind of to jump on to another topic, Aiden and I and a bunch of other senior classmates took the SAT at school. It was last Thursday. We showed up 7:30. Our test started around 8:30. We ended noon or so. We got time to eat lunch and then we went back to our regular classes. And I was really thankful for the opportunity to take it at school because I took it in May and it was very hard to try to find a testing location because everything got booked so fast. I know a lot of my friends were going even like out of state to Putnam, Connecticut to take their SAT. So it was really good to have it in school to just take a day to get it done. So we don't have to worry about that anymore.
Right. I want to thank you guys again for taking my suggestion and going ahead with that because it was a huge help for a lot of kids. I think 30 plus students took advantage of that this
Yeah.
year. And I think that'd be a great thing to continue in the future. I think a lot of kids would appreciate that opportunity. We've got a powder puff game coming up, which is a little fun thing for the students. Riley's going to be partaking in that.
Yes, I will be throwing some touchdowns, maybe. I don't know. So that will take place on November 10th, which is a half day. I think it's a Wednesday. That's next week. We're taking most of that day. The powder puff is happening during the day. And the other periods during the day, we're taking kind of like a mental health day. So we can catch up on our work, any work that we need to get done, which honestly is very helpful for me because some of my college applications are due on like November 15th. So I can, if it's not done yet, I can kind of finalize those and get those done. So.
Right. Yeah, that will be a big help for everybody. We also just had a Halloween costume day. It was really cool. All the students and teachers dressed up, and the grade with the most participation got a reward. It was a nice little morale booster for the school.
Yeah, except the sophomores won, but I think the seniors should have won.
There's some fraud going on.
But we won't talk about that. Yeah, that was really good. Usually the teachers have done the costume contest and the students get to vote, but this year was different. The teachers participated and every grade participated, and the teachers got the opportunity to nominate which students they thought had the best costumes, and then the rest of the teachers could vote on those costumes. So everyone got a little reward if they won, and the sophomores are getting a breakfast for having the most costumes.
Unfortunate. I think that's all we have to present to you today, but I just want to go back to the field issue. For me, that's the biggest problem right now. I think if we can get on turf fields and we can be allowed to drive to areas away from town, even if it is just 15 minutes away, I think that would be a huge help. Because currently we are driving each other to practice anyways. So I think if we were allowed to do that, like today was a nice sunny day and we weren't allowed to play on fields at Sutton because they were just not available to us. And the girls had to play on the tennis court. Playing soccer on the tennis courts is not ideal, as I'm sure you can imagine.
Aiden, I have in front of me, we're investigating being able to use Millbury, Grafton, or Northbridge's turf fields. So Christina's working on that. Obviously, there's a fee associated with it, so I'll share a little bit more information with the school committee during my update. And one of the issues, we do have a policy that says students can travel, they can go on their own in town. So if there was a golf event down at the golf course, they could drive there. They go up to the field in the center of town, they can drive up with their friends. So one of the things that we need to think about is if it's Millbury or Grafton and Northbridge, the next town over, is that a reasonable request for this 1 year to be able to do that and waive that policy? As a superintendent, my number one concern is the safety of kids and having children travel. And I think, a couple of years ago was an issue because we had the baseball team traveling to Northborough. Well, that means getting on 290, getting on, major highway and going. So I'll share this more in depth during my update, but
The fields are literally not playable right now. We've had so much rain, there's puddling everywhere, and it's just, it's just too risky for kids to, get hurt in some way or tear up the fields as well. So we're going to do this. We are going to use it as long as we can get rental space from these area towns. It's just, do we provide transportation? What can the students go on their own? So we'll be talking about that.
Appreciate it.
Pete, anything for our
No,
seniors?
Thanks, thank you both for coming as usual. Great points, everyone. I guess both of you, how do you like the new tournament format that they're using where the Central Mass stuff's all been played out already? Now it's to the states.
Personally, I'm not a fan. I would rather have the previous schedule where you could win districts and then go into the state tournament right after. The way it's set up now, if we were a lower seed, we would have the possibility of playing a team like Nantucket. And I think Nantucket is a lower seed. And the way it is right now, they're going to have to travel 9 hours to play in the first round of playoffs. And in a year that Sutton might be a lower seed, I don't see that as a realistic option for us. To miss a full school day just to play in one game doesn't make much sense to me.
Yeah, I'm just glad that we have had the opportunity to play in the Central Mass tournament because it kind of gives us more of a feeling like we're working towards a smaller goal and then working towards another bigger goal. So it feels good to win one title and then work towards another one instead of just having this big, because the idea of states is kind of intimidating to go into a state tournament with like 80 other schools that are fighting for it in your division. So I think that the addition of the Central Mass tournament has definitely been helpful to have.
That's all I think.
Yeah, as always, thank you for coming. We always appreciate the updates and, likewise, congratulations to the teams in the past weekend success. That's great. And I'm right along there with you with the turf fields. I wish we had one in town. I wish we did something years ago, but where we're at. So hopefully, much like your request for the SATs locally, hopefully we'll get the same success with turf fields and get something situated really quickly. So again, thank you for bringing that up. That's why we love hearing suggestions, because it does bring up some good ideas. Glad to hear that the SATs went well at school. Curious, what was some of the winning costumes?
There was a pack of hot dogs that got, I didn't agree with. It was like a cheap costume to me.
I know a junior pair dressed up as Forrest Gump and Jenny.
That one was good.
That one was
That's
good.
pretty good.
One of our senior classmates dressed up as the guy from the Geico commercial with the fishing pole and the dollar. That was funny. I don't know. I can't remember.
One of my good friends dressed up as Howie. That was a great costume.
Yes, that was
That's
good.
great. Thank you, and good luck with the essays and the applications.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. A couple of thoughts, questions. Social emotional learning in the building, how things are going there, thoughts around what we might do different, what we might do different next year or even right away.
So we do have advisement every day, which I think it's a good help for students to get some work done, or if you're falling behind in a class, you can meet with the teacher. And I think that's great for students' mental health. And we also have several guidance counselors and resources for students that do need that extra assistance if they do have issues at home or just in social life. So that's always been a good help.
And the advisement period, the rule is if you have a grade below a 70 in a certain class, you're required to go to that academic teacher during the period. But if you have a grade above a 70, if you don't have any work to make up or homework to do, it's really a time to just interact with your friends. We have breakfast, which is always good. Breakfast sandwiches, which are really good. And we all just sit in the cafeteria. We get our work done. It's very productive. It's not essentially all social. It's social and learning at the same time, which I think is really nice to have.
if you're a sophomore, the breakfast would be free.
Yeah, that's a sensitive subject.
At this point, the upcoming, the juniors now, recommendations, something we would do different or something that we make sure we keep doing to make their senior year.
I think the biggest was the first initial college essay draft that they did
Yes.
in AP Lang. I think that was very helpful for me. I used most of mine in my actual submission. I edited it and revised it 100 times, but just getting that first copy down junior year helps a ton because you have the whole summer to revise it. And I think that was a great classwork activity.
Yeah, I personally did a completely different essay than what I originally wrote in class, but the whole class in general really helped with the writing structure and how to actually write a good essay. And the teachers really helped too. They're very understanding of what our ideas are and what we kind of want, and they make the ideas come to life whenever we need help. So that's always good.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've said it a million times, so when you come to the end, it gets harder other than say thanks. I certainly appreciate the updates as well as suggestions. I mean, that's certainly the point of doing this. So thanks for bringing those ideas and not being afraid to say what you actually think. As a former college admissions counselor, I'm super glad that you spend time in class working on your essays. That's huge for sure. So thanks. If you think of anything, by all means, let us know. I mean, we're always open to those ideas and hope we can enact them to make your experience better.
Great, thank you.
Was it just the AP Lang class that wrote the essays, or was it every junior English class?
I can't speak to the
Or
other
senior English
classes, but
class.
for my experience, AP Lang did focus on that.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
School-wide.
Yeah.
All juniors in the spring, right, they drafted their first of their college application.
Okay,
Great.
terrific. Well, good luck. We'll let you out of here to go finish those applications and rest up for the tournaments. Thank you for
Great.
coming in.
Thank you for
Thanks for having
us.
us.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Next item on the agenda is the Simonian Center update with Jessica Merriam, the principal.
Good afternoon or evening. It's usually good morning. It doesn't matter what time of day. I'm always like, oh, good morning. So trying to get it together. Thanks for having me. I wanted to just kind of give you some updates on how our year is going and some changes and all those kinds of good things. So our opening actually went pretty well, I would say. It was, a little bit nerve-wracking to get back into gear and have everyone in all at the same time, but it's definitely a pleasure to have everyone back. One of the things that we did end up changing was we split up the morning parent drop-off because having it all on one side was really backing up traffic and causing headaches. So we did end up splitting that, and it has gone very well since then. And the other big issue that we noticed now that we're all back in the same places was certainly in my building, that if we had a student who was positive, we were getting a lot of close contacts due to lunch. And so we worked really hard to figure out how to space the kids at 6 feet. It took quite a few different meetings and arrangements and some back and forth, but we got it worked out. And since then, the numbers of kids that have to be out of school for close contacts has gone down to 0. So all that work definitely paid off and was worth it. So it's nice to see. One of the things I think is most exciting this year, just to back up to what the kids were saying, is our Halloween event. So in my building, we always celebrate Halloween and we dress up from preschool to 2nd grade, and the kindergarten gets to kind of do their catwalk and have a parade through my building while everyone cheers them on. But at one of our administrative meetings, we talked about, oh, how fun would it be to have, my building and the elementary school, and then it turned into a whole district thing, which I think was just amazing. So my kiddos started first and we did our little thing through my building, then walked through Denise's building, and then walked under the pathway between the 2 buildings. And we had the middle school and the high school clapping and cheering them on, and then Denise's building followed us. So it was just this really great sense of us as a whole district enjoying kids, enjoying each other. And so I would just say that that was definitely a perk and a plus to look back on. And maybe it's something that we continue in the future, but it was pretty fabulous. And there were a lot of hot dogs. I would definitely agree with that statement. So it is very nice to have our hallways full of kiddos. We're definitely trying to take Mr. Friend's advice and come back to you being as closer to normal as we can. And I think that we are trying to do that and can be successful in a lot of ways and have some setbacks in others. But when you think about it, the children in my building from 2nd grade and down, none of them have ever had a regular school year. And we definitely see that there's an impact on that from kindergarten and up. But I know from hearing from the teachers for the beginning of the year, we saw the kids come back in their larger groups and be so excited to be together, to have that ability to talk and interact and play. You guys know me and my soapbox about play, and it was just great to see how nicely they all came back together and are taking care of each other. And we do see some gaps and some holes where we have some worries and things that we are seeing are kind of behind where we would normally expect them. But the message that I'm trying to deliver and also hear from myself is that we have time, that we don't need to go into panic, that we're going to meet the kids where they are. We're going to assess what they're doing, and then we're going to move forward. And I know that there's going to be tons of progress, and it may not be, this big hard push of, okay, let's get ahead. And no, I want everyone to take a deep breath. I want us to approach this in from a good place and meet the kids where they are and just work on moving forward, because we know the progress that they make, and it's always substantial and fabulous. And so I'm just trying to help us all remember that we will get there. Let's see. Science of Reading is our big professional development push this year. And so we've been focusing almost all of our PD time and quite a bit of our conversations around all of the sort of things that we might be missing in our teaching of reading. And so this year we really are meeting on the professional development days. We're having different conferences. We're having Erica come in and bring a lot of information to us. And my message to my teachers this year is, this is the year that we're going to explore, we're going to learn, we're going to figure stuff out, we're going to try some new programs and some new techniques. And my goal by the end of the year is that we're going to know the things that we want to push into our classrooms across the board. And so that next year when we start, we're going to have a much better understanding and be able to see the changes that we are wanting to make going forward. And again, it's when you know better, you do better. And I think my staff is amazing, but we want to keep up to date and keep looking at what we're doing, and reflection is the best tool in my opinion. So we're doing that. And already I have quite a few teachers saying, hey, I really like this program. Can we pilot it? And so I think in that respect, it's really to our benefit to have spent this time to look at it and look at what we're doing and see how we can alter our path. So staffing, if there was, something that's going to make me cry, it would be staffing, but I think that that's true everywhere. So I continue to be down staffed by quite a bit for positions that have not yet been filled. And we have a few people out on medical leave. And so we start our day in my building down staffed by 4 people before there's any call outs and things like that. So there definitely adds a stress component to it all. But again, the staff that I work with, they're amazing. So people are doing things that they might not normally do. They're covering someone else and everyone's really working together. It's just hard to run a building when you don't have all of your staff in place. So that continues, I think, to be my biggest stressor. And we're doing our best. I respond to everyone who sends out an application. And so we're just gonna keep moving forward and hope to get those spots filled. And then my big happy news is yesterday, Valley and I, my dog, passed our test for our therapy licensure and certification. We were one of only 2 pairs that got a perfect score on our test, so I'm gonna cheer for that, for Ray Valley. So I'm gonna work on doing some of the opt-out procedures and putting everything together, and be excited to bring her in the next few weeks.
Terrific. Pete?
Yeah, thanks, Jess.
Sure.
What are the 2 positions that aren't currently filled?
So there's, it's actually 3 because we had someone leave, but they're all 1-to-1 positions.
And then just the whole dog question. I'm very curious how it's all gonna work.
Mhm.
But what do you mean with an opt-out? Are there kids that you just anticipate are not gonna want any contact with the dog? They're gonna want to opt out of it?
So I think there'll be parents who will be concerned over, kids who are scared of dogs and or kids who have allergies.
Yep.
And so what I'll do is, everyone will get a letter with some explanation, and the ability to say, I'm not interested in having my child, be either in activities with the dog or to touch the dog individually. And what I'll do is, mark the doors on those classrooms that will then alert me to, that's not a classroom I should go into. And, no one's going to be forced to interact with her. Of course, it's all, sort of what they're comfortable with, and things like that.
Thank you.
No, I'm just thrilled we're meeting live.
Yes.
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
But it's great.
Yeah, thanks for the update. You talked about changing routine for drop off, so I guess in my mind, it naturally go to pick up. Have you heard any concerns or questions about that?
I don't know, I haven't. And I have to say, we have it down to a 10-minute stretch. We open up our doors and people come in, they, pick up their children from the different areas. They head up through the door and they check out with their license, and I check them, or Tiffany Klein checks them, and out they go, and it's super quick.
Do you think it's harder to get the kids out of the car into the school and that takes time, or harder to get the kids out of the school into their car and that takes more time?
I think the first, getting the kids out of the car and into the school, because the parents want to, they want to kind of say goodbye, and they want to get a kiss, and they want to watch their kid walk in, which all makes sense. But then when everyone takes those extra 30 seconds, it backs things up.
For me, it's leaving. My kid just wants to run around with his friends, but that's why I thank you for the update. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for the update and congratulations on the certification for therapy dog. That's quite an accomplishment. That's great. Quick, easy question. Do you feel like the same amount of kids get dropped off in the morning as get picked up in the afternoon?
I don't know if that's an easy question.
Yeah.
Do you think we have a lot of kids in the building?
Well, I think sometimes the kids want a little bit more sleep,
Mhm.
but the ride home in the afternoon might conflict with other things. So I'm just curious if it's the same stresses.
Well, in the afternoon, everybody gets picked up. In the morning, the elementary gets dropped off by my office.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're gonna, all those parents would have to then go to the elementary side in the afternoon. So it's definitely more in the afternoon.
You really? Okay.
But again, I think it moves incredibly quick.
Good.
And Officer Nick, I think the first week, he was like, I can't believe all these people are in and out. And, you're like, you got it down. And we redo. And the parents, they have their license ready, and it's just a quick.
Good to hear. Thank you.
You just touched on my question, just with the new school resource officer, adapting to the students, or the students adapting to him. I would assume that you have some programs to get him involved with the students and get the students acclimated and comfortable with not just our resource officer, but the police in general, and what they do and the safety that's involved with having someone in the school.
Absolutely. And Nick came on, and, I record a morning announcement that goes out to each classroom. And so he got to jump on, and I got to introduce him, and, the kids almost immediately, they were like, oh, it's Officer Nick. And so they're always very excited. And I think, having that ability to make that connection with an officer that then follows them through their schooling, I think is going to be hugely worthwhile. And also it gives us the opportunity to have him come in, like eat lunch with the kids. Sometimes he might do a mystery reader and come in and read to the classrooms and just be a friendly face around. Of course, I've heard quite a few kids in my building calling him the recess officer, which I think is quite funny. So I'll let him know that there's a change to his job.
Terrific. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
I think he covers the red or the blue. Next item is
The elementary school update with Ms. Harrison.
Thank you. How are you all?
Good.
It's been a while. I want to take my mask off because I'm 6 feet apart. That's okay. So things are actually going well. The start of the school year went well considering we're still living in the COVID world. Some staff might say that it's worse than last year, but there's a lot of normalcy that we have not seen in a long time. Orientation and professional development days in August and October were very productive. We are focused on our district goals of the science of reading, our one-to-one technology initiative, and social emotional learning. Students were very happy coming into school. Like, it was amazing to see. Something they hadn't done, they did at the end of the year, but it was normal as we could provide. Their desks are 3 feet apart in the classrooms. And after a lot of planning and a lot of support from our custodial staff and others, masks are mandatory for all students and staff, except for mask breaks outside and when eating or drinking. And one thing I want to that I really cherish is the teachers are getting the kids outside, unless it rains, every day for a snack break and a mask break. And if you saw the kids out there, it's probably like one of the best things you could see. Our first fundraiser was the magazine drive, which we always do for as long as I can remember. My daughter is 39 and she did it back in the day. So that went well, and it provides us funds for our student activity account. Our current fundraiser, which is being held by our PTO, is a booster-a-thon. And they come in, they have a lot of spirit, it ends with a fun run. It makes a lot of money. It's already made a lot of money. I think the last town I saw made $23,000. Those and school in our school. And they work tirelessly. The PTO has provided us with thousands and thousands of dollars of resources from their hard work at all the events that they plan. They just did, and I have this at the end of my notes, but they just planned the spooky night on Saturday, which was amazing. It was just so well attended, and it was any kid that might not get the chance to trick or treat, this was the chance. So much spirit. The Green Bean team was there and they were performing, and it was just probably one of the nicest nights I've had. And I was able to attend it with and a very nice thing for me with my 2 oldest grandchildren, my 2 girls, who are 5, one from Sutton. That was great. We didn't do fun night out with the 4th and 5th. I planned an event on the half day that we had at West End Creamery. And it was a huge success, and it brought in so many fun things for them to do, to participate in, and I got great reviews from that. And I already spoke about the trunk or treat. We just finished our first round of enrichment classes, which I feel are so well received. That worked tirelessly. There's so many volunteers. We had a range of offerings from paint art pottery, karate, to fun with Legos, woodworking, sewing with grandma, which was fun. Erin Reed Erickson's mom came from Connecticut and she taught sewing. So we'll have another round of that coming up in the spring. We did administer our first round of assessments with the Dibbles 8, which is a new one. We used to have what was called Dibbles Next, and that measures our comprehension and fluency for the students, and our measuring academic progress, we call MAP. And that is a test of English language arts and math. And it wasn't done since second grade because we did not administer it last year due to COVID. So both tests are administered 3 times a year. And it really, the teachers really love the data to show where the kids are going, what needs they have, and it helps them to align their curriculum to what the kids need individually and as a group. MCAS results from the spring, which didn't count, but they came in and they were mailed home on October 12th. I'm happy to say this very generous family, we have Dan Spengler here tonight. He generously donated 8 picnic tables to go under one of the tents. We have 4 tents on the property that were bought during COVID, so we had another area to go, which was safer for kids with COVID. It abuts the baseball field, and our teachers have been using those with their students to teach lessons and have hands-on activities, and it's been a huge thing. The teachers love it, the kids love it, and we can't be more grateful to the Spangler family for that generous donation. And then Jess brought this up, but on a last note, on a happy note, the whole district pre-K to 12, never happened in my career there for 26 years. Staff and students dressed up for Halloween. We had the pre-K kids go out first. They paraded through the buildings, and then the elementary kids, and they were cheered on by the middle and high school staff and students. It was really something to see. I think you would have been impressed. So things are going well, really well in the elementary school. During still what is a difficult time. I'm not going to deny that. We are better off staff-wise than early learning. I have to just give kudos to Jess. It's not easy, and she's doing a great job. And whenever I can support her, I try to. But we're pretty well staffed at the elementary at this point for what we have in our budget.
Pete?
No questions. It's very, always nice to see you, especially in person. And just Dan, while you're back there, that's awesome. So something we can really use, really important. It's really generous.
Yeah, thanks very much. I'm curious your thoughts on the health of the staff. I hear awful lot of conversations and pieces around the kids are back and are happy to be back and are trying to figure out how to make this work again. How the staff is doing, because this is again a pretty tough year for them, I think.
It is a very tough year. Keeping the morale up is not an easy task, and we're working really hard on that. We have a school counselor, Tiffany Klein, this year. She's amazing, and she is right there to build up the spirit and the morale of the staff with me. She's been incredible. She does lessons in classes. She meets with small groups, individual students. She's a real asset. We also have a brand new teacher in 3rd grade, Chelsea Duranian, and she's been a rock star. She's just out of college. The morale is not great, and so we try to do different things to build it up. As the elementary office staff, the 4 of us dressed up as the Golden Girls and brought around treats to the teachers to hope that it would give them a laugh, and it did. It really worked. And that's our goal, to do a theme a month. This month of November is Kindness Month, and Tiffany's doing all great stuff with them, communicating with the families. We sent out an alert now today about it, communicating with the teachers and the children. So we're really trying hard, but it's definitely not easy. It's still a challenge. The students lost a lot of learning time. We're fortunate to have our special ed director, Andrea, who wrote a grant to get us support after school. So we'll be doing some extra support for kids after school starting soon. And that's been a great thing. The social emotional learning piece is important, and we have many staff, probably almost too many, but it's a great group on that committee. And we really just want to make sure everybody feels like they're valued and important, not just the kids, but the teachers and staff as well. We do have a few concerns about some people's anxiety level, children and staff members alike. So thanks for that question, because it's an important one.
Excuse me, Paul. I've just been told that we've been losing the link for Zoom. So just a reminder, if you have to jump back in, it's www.zoom.us/join. The meeting ID is 862-7461-9489, and the passcode is 277090. I guess there have been some issues with it going in and out. So
Probably more important, your sense, the sophomores apparently won the costume. Were the seniors really cheated in that, or?
I'm gonna be perfectly honest, I have no clue. We don't do competitions at the elementary school because everybody matters and they're all beautiful, great.
They're all getting breakfast.
We all had amazing, costumes across the board, so it was great.
I do think your comment about that, what is the middle school corridor, but now just that outside area to sort of start a new tradition of that being an area where all of the school. gets
It really
together.
would have warmed your heart if you could have seen it. It
It
warmed
sounds
mine.
amazing.
It really was just the community feel of it. And that's what we need to get back, the community feel. And we all need to support each other and care about each other and love each other and get back to where we were at one point. COVID has really caused a lot of stress. And it's our job to make sure that everyone is feeling valued and important and that the job they do means a lot to everybody, parents, students, each other.
I think you're right on. We all knew when this started, it was going to be rough. And I think maybe we didn't know how rough the first year back was going to be. I think next year gets better if you keep focused
I
like you
think it
do.
will. And the valiant effort for the teachers last year, I have to really praise them. Not knowing the first thing about Zoom, even I didn't know the first thing about Zoom. And to be, in the end, they were able to teach in the classroom with students at home and have all the kids together in a hybrid model, not losing a day of learning. Did have the half day on Wednesdays, which they totally needed for their planning, and they still have not enough time to plan, but we're trying to figure out ways to have that happen. But honestly, if you could go into a classroom and watch a teacher teach on the smart board with the kids at home and the kids in the classroom, you would be wowed. Trust me. And we had that across the board. Everybody learned how to make it work. And I think they deserve a huge amount of congratulations for their efforts.
Ben?
Yeah, thanks for the update. I guess I just have one question, more curiosity, anything else, but after school enrichment, do you have any idea how many students are percentage wise?
I think that we had, I'm going to give you an approximate number, and maybe Jocelyn, is she still here? She might know. I think about 169 students participated. It was a big group. It was a big group. I mean, I'm there when they end at the end of the day, and I see the stuff they leave with, what they do. I mean, we had theater. It's just an amazing effort. And trust me, the volunteers from the PTO and from enrichment and from Green Bean, the time they put in is so beneficial to our school and our students that, it's just wonderful, honestly. I have to say that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think after school enrichment is huge,
Yeah.
especially for elementary kids, but
Any kind of enrichment is great, right?
absolutely.
So I didn't knock the Zoom off. I didn't touch anything. Yeah, Dan, thank you very much for the donation. That's very much appreciated. Thank you. It was always great to see you, Denise.
Thank you.
Fantastic job. Really
Thank you.
appreciate the update. And I appreciate every time you mention, just the contributions, the dedication of the faculty, the support staff, the PTO, the parents.
Mhm.
It's a community effort,
Mhm.
and it makes all the difference. And this pandemic is just, it's been exhausting. The stress that comes with it, and it unfortunately continues. We're all hoping it gets better. It tends to be easy for people to focus on the negative, but when you hear all the positive things happening, I think that really gives some hope. And hopefully people can look at those things and really be,
Just seeing those two elementary school kids, I'll be remembering that for a long time to come.
yeah.
They really was anxious to speak, and they did a very great job. And
Excellent job. Very impressive.
yeah, and the staff, Sutton is really a special place, in my opinion. And our school is a special place. We have so many dedicated people who care to make a difference, and that's what we're there for. We need to give the best we can to the students of our town and work hard every day.
Well, you're one of the people that make it special, so thank you.
Thanks, Nate.
And, just to touch real quick, anytime we can do something, I really love when we find ways to involve the entire district. The K through 12, we have the seniors march through all the way to the bottom. We have such a small district, one campus. There's no reason not to do that. And you get the kids look forward to the next step and really appreciate everything there is to come or everything they've been through. So I appreciate all the efforts to continue those.
And you'll be
activities.
very proud to see the kids that come over from the high school to support our after school and program for the kids that stay after school. There's many that come over because we hear the bell ring and they need to come in. And just there in the dedication from the middle school kids to the green bean. And we're very lucky to have a campus of schools on the same piece of land. It's very unique to our country and we benefit from it greatly. We had 2 students teach a chess class to the, and they were middle school kids to the in enrichment. So I could go on and on. I won't keep you because it's getting late, but I just want you to know that the family feeling in our district is, from our leaders and from all the families in the community. And I think we need to keep that going.
Thank you so much, Denise. Thank you.
I have 2 things for you, Denise, and this is, you come in and you talk to us twice a year for my short tenure on the committee, and it struck me tonight. I don't know why it was just tonight. I mean, it's been the whole time. But we get to our kids to the elementary school, and you do such a wonderful job of getting parents involved at the PTO level. And you interact with the other groups of parents, of volunteers. Jocelyn, and the Spengler families donating things. If the school wasn't that special and wasn't run that way, people wouldn't be stepping up to help out. So, but you get the kids from the Early Learning Center involved, and then you pass them along and you get involved with the kids going along. These kids come back and help you out because you affected their life.
Thank you.
So, and the other thing I'd like to say is Jess made a comment about the teachers in the Early Learning Center seeing a little bit of a lag, a little bit of behind. Rest assured, she'll get those kids going, but when they get to the elementary school with Denise and her staff, Denise will take over and that staff will get those kids up and running. And
Thank you.
when they get to middle school, they'll be ready to go.
We work as a great team. It was just kind of a funny thing, not a pat on my back, but I actually went out to recess today for 5th grade. And I would have seen the kids off the bus or in the hallways, and I come out there and they're like, Miss Saracen. I said, I came back to the office. I said, kind of felt like a celebrity today. That was a pretty good feeling. So when you're in elementary, and Ted can attest to this because he was principal, it's a pretty good job. Thank you so much.
You do a great job at it. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Just like the earlier with our elementary school students, the bar has been set by our principals pretty high. So next agenda item is a special ed update with Andrea Alves Thomas.
Good evening. It is wonderful to see you all in person.
Wonderful
I think
to
I've
see
only
you.
seen you in Zoom in the last year. So I am in year 2 and excited to get into the work much more than last year, certainly, where it was a listening, a learning year, still lots to do. But this year I am excited to be working on some initiatives and really getting into the weeds of working so well with awesome faculty, staff, and administration. I'm so grateful for their partnership and receiving me well and working so well with them. So just an update on what's going on right now. Our current number of students on IEPs is 258 across the district K-12, and 15 of those, that's inclusive of the 15 who are out of district. One of the things that we are very focused on right now in the fall is our tiered focus monitoring. So that is when the state comes in and takes a look, a very thorough look. And this year they are looking mostly at policies, procedures, both in special education and in civil rights. So that covers areas for special ed, around child find policies and practices, our licensure, our facilities to make sure they're appropriate for students with disabilities, professional development offerings, things of that nature, less of the actual IEP pieces. That's done in another 3 years. The civil rights side covers things such as time on learning, student discipline for both students with disabilities and without, making sure our procedures are compliant with the law, as well as providing equity, our non-discrimination policies, bullying, and things of that nature. So it's a very thorough look to make sure that we have everything we need. They have issued some preliminary findings and give us, it's a different model from what a coordinated program review used to be. So that was a more of a, we'll look at everything and slap you on the side, on the other side. This is more collaborative. So they meet with us, they give us an opportunity to fix anything that might not be exactly where we need it to be, revise policies, provide additional professional development, whatever that case may be. And so we're going through that right now. So I'm revising everything, making sure I'm responding to their feedback, working with administrators to make sure our handbooks have the additional pieces that they've looked at. And we'll be working with you to pass some of our policies to make sure that they have a few added pieces here and there. To that end, they will be on site to perform that facilities review and to talk to us more, to perform some interviews as well for administration and parents. There's a parent survey that goes also out so that they get some feedback from our special education parents, and then they'll put it all together in a final exit interview and report. So we're working diligently on that all together. As you've heard, instructional aids are a challenge. So I'm working closely with Miss Miriam and Miss Harrison to make sure everything's covered, including filling in for aids on occasion, which gives me an awesome opportunity to work with staff and the students. So don't mind that at all, but it certainly is a challenge for us to make sure we have everyone we need. Not to belabor too much, but to echo both Miss Harrison and Miss Miriam, we're working hard on the science of reading. And one of the reasons that I bring that up as well as a special education director is because it helps in being proactive and making sure that our students, we're looking at data, we're looking at making sure students are making appropriate progress, and also changing some of our methodologies to make sure that they're learning to read, which is the most important thing we can do. So that helps make sure, and it also helps from a screening perspective to realize the student isn't making the progress that we'd expect them to make, and therefore we do need to look at them more closely and support them in a different way, potentially from special education. It could help identify a student with dyslexia, so we're meeting the guidelines there as well. So I'm working hard and happily on that initiative as well. A few other things that I didn't include in the materials, but wanted to make sure I updated you on. One of the great pieces of work we're doing is with the Social Emotional Learning and Mental Health Academy. So this I told you about in June. It's a 3-year project where we work closely with the state. And this is year 1. And so year 1 is, what do we have? What do we do? What's good? What do we want to continue? And what might we need to improve upon? So we're doing needs assessments. We're looking at self-assessments, inventories, and that's where the work is right now, with the goal that at the end of the year, we'll have a plan of what do we need to do moving forward to make our district the best it can be in terms of social emotional supports for our students and mental health, especially where, as you've heard, I think there are some students struggling, and we're definitely trying to meet their needs. Absolutely. I'm very glad to be working with CPAC. I think it's a relationship that needed some improvement in the past from my conversations and our work. And so we are working very well. I'm glad to report, and it is a partnership where we can work on the things that our students need and to get more communication and partnership with our families, which is so important. Special education is a tough process. And so I want to make sure I'm there for families and that they know that they can reach out to me and that we are working on our problems proactively. Ms. Harrison mentioned an after-school grant, so I'll just kind of give you a heads up on that. We are in the recruitment phase. So we have a continuation grant, which is wonderful. That's for out-of-school time. And we've come up with a program that we could provide for K-8 for 1 hour after school for 3 days a week. We're trying to recruit staff and make sure that we can staff that program before we announce it to families. And we have gotten some response, but people are tired. And so we are working on making sure that we have as many people as we need to make things available. So I just wanted to kind of clarify what we're doing with that. And I think those are my highlights. If you have any questions for me, I am happy to respond.
Pete?
Thank you very much for coming. I guess you talked about the facilities review. What are you nervous about?
Honestly, I'm not, which is the good news. They look at special education classrooms. So it's not, is the building structurally sound? Are we looking at those things? It's where are the classrooms? Are they equitable? Do the students with disabilities have access to the entire building? Where are the related services rooms? Are they adequate size? Do they have all the materials that they need? The mats, the swings, all of those pieces. And fortunately we do, and our students are well positioned and rooms are ventilated and all those things. So that's really what they're looking at, the conditions for students with disabilities in particular. So it won't be every classroom, it'll just be special education classrooms and related service rooms.
Very good. And then just one other, do you know, you're new to the district, and welcome, but how do you see the IEPs trending right now? Is it creeping up? Is it flat?
So it's one of these things that you have some students come off and some students come on. So the number might not necessarily change. Overall, we're slightly high at about 19% district-wide, where the state average coverage is around the 17% mark. So yes, it's a little bit slightly higher. We did see an increase in preschool for sure. I think there are students coming out of early intervention that are creeping up in number, absolutely. One of the other things I should mention is I am looking at IEPs and how we find students eligible, making sure we're sticking to criteria, that we're looking much more at data, both in IEPs and in the eligibility process, to make sure we're looking at every aspect of a student and making the right decisions as well.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for coming in. I agree. I think it's probably nice to be the aide now and then. Did you raise your hand? She was. I guess sort of on the same line of questioning around your staff and all. I think of last year as it's all sort of running on adrenaline, but now we're getting back to business, and some folks will be viewers tired. Thoughts around how we're doing?
I think it's impressive that everyone works hard and creatively, and I love that people come to me and say, hey, I thought about this. What do you think? Can we try something outside the box, which I love. So I have seen some of that, and some of it is there are some growing pains. One of the things that we're looking at is how staffing can be done efficiently and to maximize time for students. And that is a slight change from what it might have looked like in the past, especially in the elementary school. And I think people are adjusting. But like anything a little new, there's a little growing pain with that, and we're working through it for sure. But we have our related service staff in place, and they're working hard and doing the best we can for sure. Honestly, the aides is the biggest issue. When we're short there, then it's hard to make sure everyone's covered and kids are getting what they need.
Yeah, thanks for the update. I guess have a couple questions. Obviously, one of the goals of this committee is we try and look forward as much as we can. So do you have an idea of the general breakdown? I mean, if preschool is a super influx of IEPs, are we thinking that's going to continue forward and we need to start planning for elementary, middle, high school, larger numbers than we've kind of been facing?
Yes, I am looking at that and trying to plan out about 5 years. There's a bubble class at the 3rd grade that has a higher number of students from an IEP perspective than other grades. And so I am looking at what we need to do to make sure we're meeting those needs. And of course, from the preschool. So we opened the applied behavior analysis preschool. Currently has 7 students. I anticipate 2 more coming into that when they turn 3. So that'll be 9. And that is definitely something that we're looking at how to plan for moving up. Cycling a teacher at that point, they can cycle because they're young. But as that group gets older, we definitely have to plan for that. And I'm looking at that for sure.
And then obviously, during the public forum, we talked about communication. So can you just maybe explain what's currently being done in special ed, obviously you're working with them, so kind of how to do it forward, but just kind of so everyone knows, what's your current communication strategy? How does that look like to parents?
Sure. I attend the CPAC meetings every month. I attend the beginning half so that I can answer any questions and let people know what's going on. And then the parents have an opportunity to speak to each other. I did a survey in the spring to see what best worked. And so it seemed like going through the school newsletters was better. So I work with Ms. Harrison and Ms. Merriam to include any updates or information that we need there, to make sure that each school has what they need. And for the middle school and high school, there's been less to update, but I work with Ms. Corrin and Mr. McCarthy very well as well. And with the aides there, I've met with them a number of times. So we're just trying to keep all lines open there. But going through the administrators is where I am right now. So I'm certainly open to other suggestions and we'll work on that together.
Thanks.
I wish I had additional questions. I think you covered it all and most of the questions were hit, but I just wanted to let you know I have a great appreciation for all that you're doing. I think the district is in great hands with your leadership and just fantastic. Thank you.
It's rare for me not to have a question, but I echo what Nate said. And your energy tonight is just incredible. So,
Thank you.
and we appreciate that. So, it's nice to have you in the school with our kids, and it's nice to see you getting involved more with CPAC and parents and hearing concerns that way and getting the lines of communication open. So that's greatly appreciated.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the facilities update with Roger Raymond.
Hello, everybody. Nice to see you all again. Well, I'm just gonna go through my usual, each building by each building and let you know how we made out and what's working and not working. We'll start with the wastewater plant. As you know, we got the permission from the town to kind of refurb the filtering process, the big huge tank that's out there. That process has been totally completed at the moment. They had to, empty it, obviously, clean it and then sandblast it and then put some special epoxy paint on the inside of the tank. So they started probably, I think, about the second or third week in July, and they finished up right as we were starting school for that part of it. We always had water going to the school because they had that huge trailer type contraption you see in the parking lot where that's holding water. We're not using it at the moment, but they're leaving it there just in case. We're looking at cleaning out a couple other tanks because there was a problem between the UV pump, which filters out the water and purifies it as it comes out of the tank and goes into the system. So there's a problem there. The pump was bad, and when they replaced the pump, there's still a clog there. So they're keeping the tank out in the parking lot in case we need to use it to fix this problem. Some of the problems that they did find as they were going through the refurb processes. Obviously, I just mentioned the UV pump was bad. The tank hatches, there's two hatches on top of the tank that if they need to go down inside or open it up for check any particular type of electronic equipment, some of them were rotted, so they had to cut them out and put in and weld in new hatches. So they should be good for hopefully another 20 years. And then it was recommended that the pre-treatment and the flow equalization tanks be cleaned. And that's where we're also saving the water. That actually, take that back, that was cleaned out right as school was starting up. They were worried about sediment in the bottom that may have caused some of the debris to get into the filter section, which should never happen. So they were wondering if the T that goes in between the tanks had broken off and the water was just flowing with all the solids into this area, and it was causing damage to the filters. But they checked it all out, pumped it all out, and fixed whatever they found that was bad. And they didn't really find too much that was bad, except that it really needed to be pumped out. And then there's the last thing that they're working on now, which in the process of doing the sandblasting, all that stuff obviously blew everywhere in the entire facility. It went on the floor, and as they washed things down, that went into the floor drains and blocked up the
the floor drains. So next week, their company has hired actually our plumber to come out and jet out the floor drains and then put in a new sub pump. So that part should be back to running up to normal. There was one last thing we talked about a while back, and that was changing the PLC. Those are the programming panels that you can control the pumps and the motors and the blower units. And they're old. They're built when the plant was put in over 20 years ago. So if they go bad, getting parts for them is very difficult. So they're still investigating how much that will cost to change that out, but there's a possibility that we'll be able to do that also. And the town knows about it, so they probably are gonna help us out with that cost. On the good news, to get to the Simonian Center, the gym floor is replaced this past summer. It took a while because just as they were getting started, of course, we had all that rain. And when they pulled the old floor up, it was all moisture underneath. And the guy's looking at me saying, I can't do anything with this floor. You're gonna have to have this remediated. And you're gonna have to drill holes in it. It's like, no, I don't think so. So we waited until we got some drier weather and they took some more moisture readings in the cement. And the moisture level had dropped to a point where they could use a different type of adhesive, but they could still put the floor down. So hopefully we don't have any issues with water coming up through the floor. The elementary building, where, as you know, we were working on painting classrooms that we started during that COVID summer. And we finished up all but one classroom last year, and we got the hallways left to do, which is a variety of different colors. That'll be probably a little bit slower of a time because it's a lot of colors that we have to get for one thing and then cut in around each other. So it's going to be a little bit more tedious to do that type of work. And there's one classroom to do that there was too many things in the classroom for us to actually paint that room for what else, spending a lot of time cleaning up. So the old MIDI lab on the second floor was also repainted, and that has extremely high ceilings. It was a little challenging, but we were able to get that done. And in the process of doing that, we removed all the old MIDI tables that held the keyboards. They were pretty much falling apart. Most of them had things removed over the years because they either broke or they weren't functional. And Dan Durgan had confiscated some of the computer tables from some of the labs that he dismantled, and we made a switch and threw the other ones out. We also removed the carpet that was in room 100. Is due to some of the kids that were in there. We had a few problems and needed to be removed, so we pulled that out. At the same time, they were working on the elementary carpeting, and so we saved a little bit of money because the same guys were doing both jobs, and they were both there. So we put in VCT into that classroom. So that's another classroom that's now done without carpet. And as you know, you've probably seen the library in their elementary school. It came out pretty nice. And I just wanted to say thank you kind of publicly to Monique, Lynn, Cindy, Carey, and all the honor students who helped me pack the books up, because every single book in the entire library had to come out of the shelves and be put in boxes, moved into the hallway so we could move the cabinets around so they could get at the floor. And then once we cut the floor down, we had to put everything back, of course. And it was actually pretty much ready to go opening day of school. So I was extremely happy that all these people helped me out, because there's no way my guys could have done it during the summer with everything else they had to do. Middle high school, well, you heard the young student complain about the fields and the moisture out there, and I can't say anything more that we've had all we could do to try to keep the field mowed without causing tracks, so that the coaches will yell at us because we had tire marks in the field. So it's been a fun year. I know some of you see me working in the courtyard in the high school. We finally got that big bed all cleaned up. I hope to do the same thing to the other remaining bed. over the next year. And hopefully they'll all stay that way going into the future. During the recent storm, well, it was probably about a month ago now, we had that surge that went into the school, and it blew two of the lightning arresters on the poles in the back of the building, which looks like it pushed the surge into the building and has caused a multitude of problems. Some of the problems that we saw were the Siemens fire alarm panel at the high school took out 5 to 6 modules, and it had to be reloaded. The programming had to be reloaded into it. Lidco was here this morning. They checked out the elementary parking lot lights. There's only 2 of the 8 in the parking lot that work, and the rest of them got blown out, along with one in the back of the school as the kids come out by the handicap ramp in the elementary building. I know Dan lost some battery backups, and we lost the programming module in the wastewater treatment plant, or sorry, the water plant. The fire alarm transmitter in the elementary school got blown out at the same times. So we were able to reset that night and get it up and running, but because of the transmitter not being able to send a signal out if there was a fire, and because of the problem at the high school, the fire department had to have a fire watch for, I think it was 2 nights. And we got the elementary working the next day, and the Siemens panel took to the end of the week before we had the modules, because they had to search all over the country to get them. All the repairs are being submitted through an insurance claim. So that claim is being left open at the moment, and because we're anticipating we're probably going to find some more things that may go bad within the next month or 2. We'll probably keep it open for so long, but right now we're leaving it so we can capture those things also. See what else we got here. As far as the maintenance goes, everybody's having trouble with hiring employees, as you know, and we're not alone there. We've had ads out since last spring, and we still got an ad out there. We've had a couple people apply, offer positions, only to within a week they've gotten better offers from other school systems, and they've come right out and told me, I just got $3 an hour more than what you were offering me. So I thought I should bring this up. I talked to Ted about it, and he says, yeah, he says, why don't you bring this up and let you know you're frustrated with what's going on too. But just to give you an idea, what we're facing, we have custodians that have been there for 17, 21, and 29 years, and they're only at about $24 an hour. Okay, now, I also understand that every job has a max where you can go to. And I know that price is probably for those amount of years that may be getting up close to that, but it's still going to be higher than that, what we're doing. But the main part that we're having trouble with, as I mentioned, a starting custodian in 2 adjacent towns to us. One's starting off at $20.10 and the other one starting off at $23.45. At Sutton, if you come in first year, no experience, $15.71. And I may add too that $15.71 has been brought up by the union, who's been trying to increase the salaries. But when I look at this right now, we're saying $15 is minimum wage. So we're at pretty much minimum wage right now. And you know, these guys, a lot of these guys that we have on staff, they're pretty much single guys, or they're living at home, so they can afford to make a living on the 15 or whatever they're at. But everybody else is you know, that you need, hopefully their wives or their spouses are also working, because there's no way you can live on this amount of money. So I think at some time we have to look at this seriously. We have to do something. And it doesn't involve just starting with the starting salary. I mean, you can't say, I'm gonna give the starting guy $18 an hour, and then we have people that have been here for $6 or $7 an hour. And we're gonna give them, 50 cents more an hour, and they're gonna be pretty much making the same pay, and they've been here for 6 or 7 years. Everybody's gonna have to get a jump up to the standards of what other school systems are paying, or we're just not gonna attract anybody. We're seeing it right now. Nobody wants to come and work at Sutton, no matter how nice it is. And it is a good place to work. It's just that when you don't want to pay, you're not gonna get the people to come. So, I don't want to leave it at that note, but it's not the best subject to talk about. And like, some of the other principals have said, because of the not having enough people are getting stressed out, and then all the events that normally happen during the school year are still happening. So not only are you a man or two short, somebody gets sick and is not in, and then you get all these events that still happen. Sometimes things just don't get done. So it's just, there's not much you can do about it at the moment, but the guys are trying as hard as they can. Some are putting in an hour or two extra a night just to try to make up in someone else's area, and hopefully we'll get some more applicants to apply. So other than that, I'll take any questions you got.
Thanks, Roger.
Okay.
I don't have any questions. I just, I appreciate you gave us a tour last summer. That was great.
Okay.
And I appreciate you bringing this up. That's it's really good to know the
Yeah.
starting pay is versus some of the other towns. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Roger. The drop phase was it a lightning strike that took out that phase and then it went out of balance? Or?
It's really hard to say, because I heard the bang was so loud that I didn't hear a traditional thunder clap, or whatever you want to call it. You usually hear a ripple effect afterwards. This was just like quick explosion type of sound. So it was raining really hard at the time, and we're actually thinking that there was probably water that got into the main line of the pole, because it blew a phase right off the pole.
Oh, the line came right.
Yeah, it blew the circuit breaker right there, right up on top of the pole. You could see it hanging up in the air. They had to replace that.
And so even if it wasn't a strike, we don't own that portion. That's the power companies.
Right, yeah. But the
Yeah.
insurance is still gonna cover it.
And same message, it's a heck of a way to end. Everybody else brought in kids. Happy stories.
Next time I'll bring donuts. Okay.
It's the right message. It's the right place to bring it.
Okay.
We need to sort that out.
I never talked about people's salaries before, but I just think I owe the guys to say something as their manager to say, hey, it's time that the town starts looking at trying to give the guys what they deserve. That's all.
And gals.
And gals, I'm sorry. Don't want to leave them out. That's right.
Yeah, I too don't really have anything to add, but thank you. Your team does, as does everyone here who's been updating, incredible work on short staff among many other things. And thank you. I mean, that's about all I can say to that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, as always, appreciate all the efforts you do, Roger. And yeah, it's a tough thing to bring up, but it's necessary. And
Yeah.
One of the other major indicators are you put out postings and you can't get applicants. That's a real strong message. One of the things that I wanted to bring up earlier when the high school students were here, the frustration with the fields. I want people to understand. You had mentioned like you can't cut it when it's too wet, you leave tracks and other issues, but you want to keep it a certain height. This year's just been unbelievable with weather.
Yeah.
But in my view, I also feel like I don't necessarily know that the fields were designed well to begin with. And I think your team has done a great job with what's been provided. I think it's probably a testament how much we've actually been able to use the fields by the work that you've done.
Thank you.
So be a lot easier to mow a turf field.
You would be.
So thank you, Roger.
Okay,
Always
you're welcome.
appreciate it.
You're welcome.
this committee will discuss at a meeting coming up very shortly about salaries for superintendent, for custodians, and we've got to address the IA issue as well. This is something that can't wait. Thank you for being honest and bringing it to voicing it publicly like this. That's what we need to prod action. So thank you.
All right. Well,
Thanks for coming.
Okay.
thanks, Roger.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is to approve the varsity girls basketball field trip. I
So this
assume that
is,
you'll be handling this, Mr. Friend?
yes, so this is the traditional trip that the girls' basketball team does every year. The nice part is they get exposed to college and they meet college representatives. They get to play with kids from Connecticut and Massachusetts. So it's a great trip. The question that I asked, that I was concerned about was, what was the status of mask mandates? And Connecticut does have a mask mandate, so it'll be very similar to what would happen in Massachusetts. When it comes to basketball in the winter, right now, there is a mask requirement. But we will be able to have fans in the stands and so forth. So when they're playing basketball, they will have to wear masks. Again, parents go to this event. And so the kids are transported by a transportation and picked up by a transportation. And then when they go from the venue to venue and to dinners, there's several parents and the coach who transport. And that's what we've done every year for the last 7 or 8 years.
I make a motion to approve the varsity girls basketball field trip as presented.
Second.
Any discussion?
Tough side.
What do we want? to finish?
Any discussion?
No, I don't have any questions. We've been doing this a long time.
I just, remind me again, all of the parents are aware their kids are going to be traveling.
Correct.
And the parents that, it's a great program.
No, I have nothing as well.
Yeah, again, all the paperwork looked as usual and looks great. And I love these sort of events to get the students out of the district and check things out and experience something. So excellent.
It's a roll call vote.
I already voted. Tough side.
Jerome, I. Edwards, I.
Brennan, I.
Gibbons, aye.
Passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda is the FY22 budget update. Nancy Kniske, our business manager.
Hello.
Hi, Nancy.
So I have a quick update for you tonight. In your packet, you'll find the year-to-date budget for this school year. The one section that I wanted to touch upon is the instructional software section. It's on page 20 and 21. Several of the line items for the software are currently over budget. But I just wanted to point out that if you took all of the software line items and totaled them, we are not over budget. We have a balance of a positive of $120. So, and at this point in time, we do not anticipate purchasing any additional software. So I wanted to make sure that you were clear on that. And the other thing I wanted to update you on is at the last meeting, you approved to purchase a new van for us. And I went back and I touched base with our vendor. And unfortunately, that van that we were looking at was sold. And there are currently no other vans available. And it will be late December or early next year before they anticipate one being available. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. And that's all I have unless anyone has any questions.
I don't have any questions. I'm not surprised the van was gone.
Yeah.
What happens in late December or January if another van is available?
Guess we gotta get.
We've already given the approval. I think it's just.
So if the van is available at the amount of money that's approved.
You get in line.
No, thanks for pointing that out. Do you know, and maybe we should have asked the other people who spoke tonight, but which department overran on software and why we anticipated seeing that? And should we expect that in the future that's going to be a rising issue?
Yeah, so I think next year will be corrected in the budget. It's all due and to going with all Chromebooks throughout the district. Departments were, let me tell you.
So this was a big area where we were just unsure. Coming out of the pandemic, we purchased so much software the previous year to get going. And so Dan did an analysis of in June compared to what we're using software the previous time to get a sense of, once we went back to being back in school full time, what was the usage and do we need to purchase certain software? So that kind of drove it. So we were just kind of in limbo about exactly how much software we needed to purchase. So we budgeted X amount of dollars knowing that it might be a little bit more needed in the middle school and a little less in the elementary school and vice versa.
The line items that show over are the middle school, district-wide, and elementary school for special education.
Thank you.
Any questions?
No, I think you covered it. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Nancy, with the van, they said possibly late December or January. Did they say anything about at the same cost or indicate that it would be anything different?
Well, as we were just discussing that, it occurred to me that when at the last meeting, you approved a 2021. But I bet it's gonna come back with a 2022, so I'm gonna have to bring it back. And my guess is the cost will probably, I would imagine, would be more than a 2021 would have
So
been.
the approved motion was for a 21.
Yeah, it was.
a specific amount of money.
Yep,
Okay.
yep,
I have a 15 with about 115,000 miles on it.
yeah.
That would be right in line with the rest of the band. we had.
I don't know if it's any better.
You could keep a close eye on that and
I
and when
will.
you hear something,
We have to jump on it pretty quick.
Yeah.
So maybe something Ted and I can talk about, maybe even bringing it to the next meeting, just so we have the availability to make the move on it if we need to.
we did vote. I don't think it was last year, but I think 2 years ago, we did vote to allow the superintendent to have a little bit of leeway for emergency spending. And I don't know if this would come into emergency spending if we voted X for 21 and we need another $3,000 for 22. Okay, well, five, but I
that
think
was the limit. I think
but I
it
think-
was 5.
I think number was 5 or 10.
Yeah.
I mean, does
Yeah.
this fall within the superintendent's purviews to allow us to?
I
to
would
get
want to
that
see a
in?
vote on that, but that's because I wasn't in favor of a van that we didn't think made money anyway.
And we'll have a vote on that. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nancy.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is the superintendent's update.
So I wasn't going to touch on morale, but you brought it up and I struggle with this. I just want you to know that. And what I remind the administrators and I remind the people I talk to, I don't think morale is an issue just in schools. I think morale is an issue in every country, every company, every walk of life. 2 years of living, still wearing masks is taking a toll on everyone. The difference with education, though, and being a 4th grade school teacher, 5th grade school teacher, you feel this internal need to make sure you take care of the kids in front of you. And so there's that built-in pressure. At the same time, you have to remember that these are little kids in front of you, or bigger kids, but the bigger kids, I think they can handle some of this a little bit easier. So it's that balance of you want to push enough with our young kids, but also recognize that they're fragile. They're coming out of this as well. And we just want to balance our approach. And that's why, you know, this Halloween party was so important for the district to see the kids going around. It was wonderful. And that's why the school play that's going to take place, it's a Christmas Carol, Scrooge, it's a Christmas Carol. Right? The elementary school is going to go to that and the middle school is going to go to that performance during the day. We're going to allow the performers to not wear masks during the event because enough of them will be vaccinated. They will keep the audience back. It is so vital that we try to make school as normal as humanly possible for these kids, and to recognize that we're not going to make up the gap in 1 year. We just need to relax a little bit. Kids learn. They're very smart. They learned a lot of skills that they wouldn't have learned if we didn't have this pandemic. So we have great parents, we have great families in this town, and these kids will get caught up and they will do just fine. But a teacher is going to naturally put a lot of pressure on themselves. And I just, I tell the union leadership, I don't have a magic answer to how you get people to relax a little bit. And I think everybody's tired. I would imagine the medical profession is very tired right now. So no one's unique to this, but we talk about it every week in our administrative meetings to try to just lighten up the work environment as much as we can. At the same time, making sure we help our kids get caught up as much as we can. The students that came in to talk about the fields, there is a cost associated with going and using these other fields, these turf fields. So it'll be between $2,700 and $3,100 to have all our teams do their practices on these fields and also potentially host games. The games would cost, if we only do 3 games, about $1,125. And the problem with the busing is when you add these additional routes at this time, it's hard to get bus drivers, it's hard to get transportation. And that's why the students brought this up to the committee today, that if we could waive the policy for the next couple of weeks so that students can drive themselves to either Millbury, Grafton, or Northbridge, it would. And if we can provide the transportation, we will with our own transportation. We just can't rely on AA because they've booked things out and they don't have the drivers as well. I don't know if you need to do a vote or if it's just.
Can't we use the student use bus, the white bus, for at least for part of it?
You could use a portion of that. You could bring parts of the team over, but you couldn't bring all the team over. So, I mean, you could do a combination of using the activity, but because remember, you've got girls soccer, boys soccer, girls field hockey. So you've got, you'd only be able to take a portion of one of those teams.
And that's this weekend next.
And that's this weekend next.
But you're renting the fields. Are all the teams have a different field on the same day, or?
I'm, right now they're just trying to figure out how to get space.
And I think it's the policy isn't the child driving themselves. The policy is them driving others.
Yes.
What does the liability become to the school for that?
We
That's my
recovered,
concern.
we did this when during the building project, students were able to drive to Oxford and Northbridge for all their practices when we didn't have the gymnasiums. So we did this, we did check with our insurance company and we were covered because it goes under their own policy first. So it doesn't go under the school policy. So I just think in a practical sense, I think we kind of have to do this whenever we can drive them, we will look to drive them. But if we get caught in a situation where we don't have a way to get them there, I think we need to allow them to get there and drive themselves to the practice.
I think where it's policy, you vote. You couldn't just say, yeah, that's all right. That's the policy.
I just want to be clear on the liability part of it. And it's both ways. If an upperclassman with a licensed vehicle volunteers to drive, I want to make sure that the parent of that student understands the liability of it, as well as the underclassman who rides with them understands the same. I mean, I think we need to insulate those.
Sure.
If it's going to go into their policy first, we need to insulate them and make them aware of everything, and we need to get confirmation from.
We have a permission slip that whenever we do this, we provide a permission slip for parents to allow them to allow someone else to transport the
Okay,
children.
but
So
we need to
have
make
that.
sure that
And I'll
it's
check
not
the
just a
policy.
permission slip, but that those people truly
Sure.
understand,
Yeah.
you know, what they could potentially be held liable for.
I'll have Nancy check tomorrow with the policy, get in writing, and then we'll make sure if you voted that we'll notify parents that if anything does happen, whatever the policy states, we'll put that and let parents know.
So the next question is, do we know exactly which
Yeah, so
policy?
we'll do that tomorrow. I'll have Nancy recheck and call tomorrow.
No, I mean, which school policy this is that we need to have a motion to amend or suspend? That's.
I would think it's in the, everybody understands in the vote that the policy that allows or disallows that we're waiving it for a period of time.
We're calling it the fall playoff season or whatever. It's not in perpetuity.
Right, I think if you time bound it like that.
I understand that part of it, but again, when something goes sideways.
No, I think that
And-
language is important to have in there
Yeah,
too.
but when something goes sideways and that bad day happens and someone comes back to this committee and says, you voted to change a policy, but you didn't know exactly which policy it was, and you didn't state exactly which policy it was when you voted. I have concerns that way too. I like the idea of being able to allow the students to do this, but I want to make sure that we're taking the right steps for the town and the school district as well.
When I talked to Christina this afternoon, I said, what I'd like you to try to do is to schedule as much of the time after 4 o'clock. It's after 4 o'clock, then we have a bus, our own bus that's available, that we can fit 2 teams on at any one time. So if we can do that, we have an available driver. I'm hoping what this is going to be is the exception and not the rule. But we will certainly have a notice to the parents. We'll notify them of any of the insurance issues that are tied to it. And we will again, we'll check with our insurance carrier again one more time, just to double check to make sure we're covered.
I think you're right with the concern. I also worry about, I get that we're trying not to do it, but we're either voting to say it's, for this period of time, you're free to do it or not. And I think we gotta sort of, if we're voting it that way, assume we're releasing that entire period of time.
Correct,
on us.
correct.
It's,
Does anybody feel brave enough to make a motion?
So it's for 2 weeks? We're talking about between now and November 19th.
So nothing gets pushed back because of weather.
With a liability waiver or some sort of parent waiver.
Correct.
You want to come back Wednesday when we know what the waiver is, what that looks like? You give us 24 hours. I mean, I agree, you're right. We're kind of half putting this together and it probably makes no difference, but the day that it makes a difference is not a good day.
It's not gonna be a good day, exactly.
If you wanted to say, let's get it all straight and come back real quick on the 3rd.
So, or you don't, and we just work to get busing for all of these kids. That's all.
And I mean,
I'd rather spend school choice money and know that we're stuck with it.
I would too.
So the estimated cost for, well, it depends. If it's
Depends if we
after
can
4
get it.
o'clock and we're using our own bus,
Yeah.
it's a very inexpensive proposition. If it's a transportation, it's a significant cost to the budget. I'm glad you're saying this. I'm just going to give them the go ahead to just bus the kids.
With our people.
With our people, whenever possible, and if we have to use AA and they can avail themselves to a drive, we use AA.
Far right of that.
Should we make a motion and vote
No.
that way, or?
No, what about just allowing students to drive themselves?
I was gonna say,
Or parents
can a
drive
student
themselves
still
to
drive
alleviate
themselves?
space on the bus.
Again, if
The
it's a student
parent-
driving themselves or a parent driving their own kids,
I don't think it's any policy.
I don't think it's an issue, but my concern is
only
a
an-
student driving another
somebody else.
student. Yes.
Okay, so we don't have to have any vote.
Yeah.
All right, that's easy.
Do we? We don't need a
I'm
vote?
good, unless you wanted, we're knowingly going over the budget. We don't know by how much, but I assume we're talking about 6,000 to 12,000.
I mean, worst case scenario, the total cost would be $9,700, worst case scenario.
So
Ben, you have something with that? Pete? Yeah. All right.
All right, getting to our favorite subject of the night. DESE has, Department of Elementary and Secondary Education has extended the mask mandate through January 15th. I'm hoping now with vaccines being made available to students 5 and older that the light is coming close to the end of the tunnel, but I'm not counting on it quite yet. We did start our testing and stay program. When we originally sent out the letter, we only had 100 parents sign up. However, what we're seeing is we had a situation today where a student tested positive and there were 2 close contacts identified. We contacted the parents, they filled out the form. We tested those students, they tested negative, they were able to come back and stay in school. So it's a highly effective program and that's working very, very well. We're also thinking that with the part-time nurse that we hired, that we're going to go back to what we originally scheduled for our staffing for nurses, with 1.5 full-time in the elementary early learning center, 1.5 at the middle and high school, and this initial additional part-time nurse will fill in to cover and be there. So we're feeling much better about where we are with COVID-19 and our nurse staffing. It's interesting, Michelle Donovan, she's our lead nurse, and she goes to all the meetings, and she said that on all the meetings, they're losing nurses left and right in other districts, and the pressure on school nurses. And, I can say we did it right here. We increased the staffing. We provided the additional supports as needed. Our nurses feel very supported. Couple plan on retiring at the end of the year, but that was happening anyway. So it's not a function of COVID-19. So that's going very, very well.
What percentage do we sit with vaccination?
Our staffing is, I don't have an official amount, but we've done an informal survey, and we think there's over 95% of our middle and high school staff that are vaccinated. The last I heard on students vaccination was a little over 70%. So it's moving in the right direction. I want to remind the committee that our next meeting is December 8th, which is a Wednesday. The town hall meets, or one of the departments here, has a special meeting. And so you need to mark in your calendar. It's Wednesday, December 8th. At that meeting, we'll do a regular first part of the meeting, and then we'll begin the budget process, the budget subcommittee with everybody. And then on the 13th, I think what we'll probably do is we can either do a working session. Well, we can't do it here because they're going to have one of those meetings. We can just do a working session in my conference room on the 13th to finish up the initial round of the first draft of the budget process. And then I'm going to keep this very short and to the point. My last bullet item. My mask is fogging up. I mean, my glasses are fogging up. I'm announcing tonight that I plan to retire from the Sutton Public Schools on August 31st of next year. I'll be finishing up my 10th year, my final year in the district. I want to thank the entire Sutton school community for giving me this incredible opportunity to fulfill my professional dream. Some people know, but my dad was a lifelong educator. He was an elementary school teacher, elementary principal, supervisor of elementary education, and deputy superintendent of schools in Worcester. And it was, I didn't know it was going to be my dream of following my father's footsteps. But I want to thank the school committee that ultimately hired me 12 years ago. And it's bittersweet, but it's time, I think, to have a new, fresh voice in town. And to bring in someone who had the energy that I had 12 years ago to the job. So I also, I'm, you know, people ask why you're doing it so soon. There's a process that takes place for a school, for a town to hire a superintendent. You want to get out there before the other school districts start posting for those positions. So, I mean, I'm here for the remainder of this year through the summer. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
New business agenda items and action items. Pete.
Nothing for me.
Well, some, 12 years ago, is it 12, really?
Yeah, 12.
So 12 years ago, when Ted came on board, he was sort of an odd duck, not at all what anybody planned on or expected or thought a superintendent should be. He was different. And we spent a little bit of time, all of us getting used to. But within a year or so, I think the board very much knew it was, a good choice. And certainly within 4 years or so, all of the staff, I think, got used to what a straightforward, direct, honest, just straight shooter. That if you don't like what I'm saying, explain to me why, and then we'll talk about it and make it better. And certainly in the last 12 years, what we've gotten is that is rubbed off on the culture of the district. So you just say, are you sure? And thanks, right? And what you might think is just a little piece starts with leadership that you offer. It's really just made a spectacular difference.
Thank you.
Good. Yeah, I've got nothing else for next session. Thanks.
Yeah, we got a little time to say some nice things. over the next
Exactly,
few
that's
months. I will say it's one of those things we've enjoyed as a town, some consistency, having two of the most major positions in town be consistent over this last dozen years, and really the town's run so well at this point is an attribute to all the things that yourself and Jim Smith have brought. We've been very fortunate, so it's gonna be tough. We'll try to convince you otherwise, keep you from becoming a swim instructor again or something like that.
That'd be nice.
I have nothing else. So can we?
Yeah, I would make a motion to adjourn to executive session to discuss contract negotiations and not reconvene in open session.
That's a roll call vote. Pete? Tufts, aye. Jerome, aye. Edwards, aye.
Gibbons, aye.
Terrific. Thank you.